4, 3.
Fuck it.
There's no words on it.
Tomorrow. Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
I've never seen that.
Fucking thing sucks. There's no words there.
Fuck it.
There's no words on it.
Tomorrow.
Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
I've never seen that.
Fucking thing sucks. There's no words there.
I don't know. Fuck. 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 I don't know. What. Go. I can't do it.
Fuck it.
Go. I can't do it.
Fuck it.
Go. I can't do it.
Fuck it.
Go. I can't do it.
Thanks again for watching.
Fuck it.
There's no words on it.
Tomorrow.
Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
I've never seen that.
Fucking thing sucks. There's no words there.
Fuck it.
There's no words on it.
Tomorrow.
Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
I've never seen that.
Fucking thing sucks. There's no words there.
Okay. Ready?
Take it away.
Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Go.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Go.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Go.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Go.
Fuck it.
What does that mean? To play us out?
Fuck it.
To end the show? Yeah.
Yo, welcome, episode 21. Fucking A. Tonight we're getting fucking weird. That's the idea. Y'all ready to get fucking weird with me? Tonight on the show, we got our guy Mitch, which some of you know by the name Mitch. Others may know him by the name of Moses. Hodo Moses?
Hoodoo Moses.
Hoodoo Moses? We're going to get all into this. We're going to go exorcisms, witchcraft, witchery, all kinds of, I don't know, we might step into the occult. We might talk a little tarot cards, all kinds of shit I know nothing the fuck about.
And frankly, I've been too. You never. Every time I brought it up, you were like, I don't. That stuff spooks me.
I kind of don't want to know this shit. He is right. But we are about to bring on the one, the only. What was it again?
Hoodoo Moses.
Hoodoo Moses.
You got my business card here, man.
Yeah. Let me see this business card. Let me read this real quick.
Go.
Actually, you got to give away seeds off the top.
Do that.
Hoodoo man, conjurer, Kabbalist,
There you go. Nailing it.
root worker, prophet, and teacher. This is business card.
Can they see that? Oh, they can see it. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna pause that. That's a bit much at the moment.
Oh, it was setting the mood though.
We'll go back to it. We're going back to
Okay.
it. But I got to give away some seeds real quick. All right, folks. Right off the bat, you already know how we do on this show. Soul Stone, 12-pack.
What's the cross?
If it'll focus, it won't. Soul Stone. The cross is Stockton Slap to Skittles and Bitch Slap. I decided to do Soul Stone because it's like, I was going to do Lazar 115 because tonight's like, I don't know, otherworldly. But I feel like we're talking more about like souls and spirits.
Yeah, Soulstone is very,
So,
very, very appropriate
Soul
for what
Stone.
I do.
So, yeah, how about the fifth person to email? Put the email on top of your screen here. Actually, in the middle of your screen, scrolling across. The email is going to be darkhorsegeneticslive@gmail.com. And how about the fifth person to write Kabbalist?
It's hard to spell.
Kabbalist. Fifth person. And we're going to learn what the fuck a Kabbalist is, because I don't even fucking know.
That's great.
But with that said, let me bring some music back in, some of that.
There we go. Get the tunes going.
Turn it down just a little bit. Bring on the man. All right.
This is my camera, right? Yeah.
There he is.
There I am. What's going on, everybody?
So everybody, you may know Mitch from the cannabis world on the Dark Horse channel here or whatever.
Yeah, I did a show on here.
So yeah, Mitch was on before. If you don't know I'm not sure exactly what episode it is, but go back and watch the Mitch show. He'll teach you all or tell you all about like how he started smoking weed, cannabis, his whole cannabis like style or whatever, but or not style, but come up, or if you will. And but today we're doing something totally fucking different. Mitch has been trying to talk to me a little bit about all this crazy shit, and I just sort of been like, yeah, bro, one day you're gonna teach me about it. I'll learn about it or whatever. But I'm fucking freaked out. I'm already freaked out. So with
Good
that
start.
said, let's just talk about. Well, let's talk about. We got exorcisms. Mitch, you've done part of exorcisms. We've got witchcraft stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
We've got some tarot cards stuff to talk about.
I didn't bring the tarot cards, but we could talk about it.
We'll talk about it briefly. We also have. I think today's the 25th anniversary
24th anniversary.
24th anniversary of a near-death experience that you went through.
Yes.
So where do you want to start, dude?
Well, I guess I'll start. I'll let you know. Folks who know me from the weed world, probably most people watching this know me from the weed world, know I kind of disappeared, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. That's about right, Hulk?
Accurate, yeah. 2 or 3, yeah.
And this is what I've been doing since. I have been doing it my whole life. I brought some of my lifelong stuff, and I went pro, changed my name, got ordained, and did the whole thing. So you guys know me as Mitch, but I'm legally named Moses now, which is cool. I got my ordination certificate with me, and that's a good segue to exactly what the fuck I do.
So you're ordained.
Yes.
What? Let's see what this ordained stuff is all about. He's got like a plaque or official. You can marry people, obviously.
Oh, I've been able to do that. This is
Ordained in what?
I'm ordained in the Spiritualist Church of African Traditions, Yahweh.
I have no idea what that means, but go on.
So it involves like I don't know what people call voodoo. You know what's commonly thought of and perceived of as voodoo. That stuff, basically.
Okay.
Technically, actually, I don't do voodoo in any way, shape, or form. But what you think of when you think of voodoo is a lot like
voodoo minister, technically, sort of.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, again, more juju than voodoo, but again, we're getting into technical points here maybe we'll get into. So I've been doing this. I mean, I guess I started doing. We'll segue in, right? 24 years ago today, I was walking on a sidewalk and let me set up the whole day. For whatever reason, I woke up that day and decided to put on all the gold jewelry I owned, which was somewhat ridiculous, but whatever.
This is back in like Jersey or where?
Yeah, back in Jersey. Yeah, so I was 14. So you can picture a 14-year-old kid, and like I had gold jewelry from like my grandparents would give me gifts and stuff for like formal events and stuff like that, and I was like all golded out, and I had a no fear shirt, and I was really trying to live it that day, and I went. There was a quarry behind my school, and I built a big pentagram out of bricks that were there, like cut stones. And within 3 hours, I was walking on the sidewalk. A dude fell asleep driving his car, jumped the curb, hit me, crushed my skull. And this becomes a whole part of my weed journey, right? Because weed is what helped me with so much of that. But come to find out, though, within like a couple weeks, and that whole thing we'll segue back to, but to how weird it was. This dude was around the corner from his house. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He fell asleep. And his daughter got killed by a guy who fell asleep behind the wheel.
Damn.
How crazy is that shit?
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? So going through that experience led me on a long path of what the fuck. And, I was 14 at the time. I think I definitely had my first tarot deck at the time because I got that when I was like 12. And I'd already like kind of dabbled. But when I went through that and had like a personal experience that was just highly improbable. That's what I want to say. And my take on magic in general is to create the highly improbable and make it probable. You do that all the time, right? Like you're master of that.
Sort of. I follow you. I follow the logic, but yeah.
You do it. You have your own ways of going about it, right? But that's what you're doing. You know a situation and you're like, okay, I'm going to see Dave Chappelle right now. I'm going to smoke weed with Dave Chappelle. You form that intention in your mind and you visualize what it takes to go about making that happen. And then you operationalize it.
Yeah, in many ways, yeah. I'm a big proponent of visualizing the entire day before the day begins and trying to execute that day that you visualized, although it almost never happens that way, but that's how I start each day.
So that's that. So my like entree into like formal magic, okay, the study of magic as it is now, what they call the Golden Dawn method, Western esotericism, as they call it, was this mail order course, and it started for like people who were spooked out by the shit, right? So they like they were very good at like slowly baiting you into it, and like, and I was like, come on, I'm trying to get to the spooky shit right away, and they're like, no. You know, so it starts by saying like, yeah, visualize your day, and then they give you like exercises to assist that, and then they give you practices to assist those exercises, and then you're like, oh, okay, you just, you know, you start with the outline of visualizing your day, and then you kind of fill it in and get more detailed with that.
Gotcha. Maybe I'm jumping way forward here, but so like, what exactly? I'm going back to this business card. Like, what exactly do you practice then? So you've obviously, you know, have been doing this for quite a while, but or learning for quite a while or whatever. But like, what do you practice? What is Kabbalist, and what is a root worker and a prophet teacher?
I'll go line by line through it. Let me see
you
the
go.
card. Let
There
me
you
see
go.
the card. Cool.
What do you do?
Okay, so hoodoo, man. Hoodoo is the style of African American spirituality, folk magic that I practice. Okay, it's distinctly African American because it's the African practices brought over to America by the slaves, and then that's just passed down through generations and shit. And I was exposed to that growing up in Jersey. I was exposed to that in various ways and means through that, and the first stuff I saw was like in books, old ass books from the 70s and shit, because I was in the Essex County Library System, so Newark, New Jersey was in my library system, so they have like a major African studies department there, so I could get all kinds of books like that. Then the first time I went to college was at Rutgers, and there was an old conjure man, hoodoo man, who would come, so I would go hang out with my buddy. He worked at the overnight newsstand there, and he would work the graveyard shift, and I would go hang out with him all night, sit on the milk crate. Well, once in a while, maybe once a week, Old Man Willie would walk in, and I would have to get off that milk crate and give up the seat to Old Man Willie. Now, Old Man Willie was always, he would buy all the change that Jay had in his cup. He would pull out like $100 cash and buy all the change that he had. And, you know, because he would get tips in this little cup. So I was like, what's the deal with this? What is Willie, why does he buy all the change for good cash? And Jay said he's looking for some kind of dime or something. I don't know, ask him about it. And I found out about mercury dimes. Mercury dimes are dimes that were made between 1916 and 1944. They're extremely good luck when they're properly prepared. And so that Willie would just tell us all kinds of shit.
In the world of conjuring? Or
Yeah, conjure, hoodoo, you know. There's regional differences in what it's called. In New Orleans, it gets called voodoo, where it gets mixed with a lot more Catholicism. In kind of South Carolina is where my kind of lineage comes through. So that's more Protestant, not really even Protestant, like charismatic Christian. And that leads into the prophet thing. So they still do that shit, man. Like you think of like the black churches where they're jumping and singing and laying on hands and healing sick people getting out of the wheelchairs and shit.
Yeah.
That's
catching the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, the Holy Ghost, right? So that's you know, my teacher is of that lineage. Grew up conjuring too. So he's exposed me to a lot of that, and that goes right back to like African religion. So then I left Rutgers. I ended up going to Montclair State for college. I had already learned enough of this shit that I was like, okay, I want to go study cultural anthropology, and I'm going to do all my research on this West African religion, magico-religious practices, shamanism, all this stuff. This is what I want to do. And that's around, before then, even at Rutgers, I got this guy. I'll hold this up on camera here. This is a coyote skull and a coyote face. And yeah, that's when I started.
What the fuck is that used for?
So I've given you coyote. I gave you coyote paw, right? I think.
No, like teeth or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So we used that to keep the cops off. That was some of the first shit
protection.
I learned.
You gave me coyote teeth for protection. I remember.
Yeah, for protection from cops specifically. And so that's where, I don't know. When I started believing in magic was when I was like 12 years old, 13 years old, and I was going out hacking computers and shit and like tapping into people's phone lines in the middle of the night. And every night before I left, I'd say a prayer because I was raised very religious and shit. And that goes into the Kabbalah and all that shit. So every night before I left, I'd say a prayer. And then one night I was like, fuck it. Oh no, this was a daytime mission. I was like, fuck it, I don't need a prayer. And I got stopped by the cops that time. And then the next time I was like, fuck it, I don't need a prayer. I got arrested. And so like, then I was like, oh, there's something to this. And then when you talk to, you know, anyone who's lived in kind of improbable situations, people who get outside the norm, whether you're talking about like outlaws, criminals, even police and shit, where just their life is different than normal, they believe in luck. They believe in some kind of thing where like or they carry something, or they wear something for luck or for
Gamblers.
Gamblers are huge. The rabbit's foot, right?
totally.
That's from conjure. Like that's a conjure thing. Rabbits used for fast luck work because they're fast. So use the rabbit part to bring that luck quick.
So is this also a thing where you do like a spell? Like when I think conjuring, I think like you're going to conjure a spell up on someone.
So okay, so how things work, right? It all kind of comes together. It's well, I'm going to go through the business card and then we'll go.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Kabbalah is like Jewish mysticism, Jewish magic, and my particular family and kind of the way I was raised has a lot of this shit. The evil eye, all kinds of shit like that, breaking that stuff, removing that stuff. All sorts of divination, reading the coffee, and that's stuff from my family. But Kabbalah is specifically working with the scripture, with the Old Testament, working with Hebrew. I do a lot of like, if you go on my Instagram, you'll see I write like amulets in Hebrew. So it's a piece of parchment that has a special verse on it and all sorts of things. Or I do like somewhere here on this desk, I've got a card I made. Where'd I put it?
Let's say we've got a desk
There's a
full
little-
of
There's a little
all
square
kinds of
card
crazy shit
somewhere.
we're going to get into today. There's
Yeah.
feet of animals. There's coyote skulls. There's dirt from special places. We've got candles. I see oils.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
So,
There's all kinds of stuff. I don't know where that.
I don't know what you're
where
looking
There's a
for.
little card that's
Scared to
got like
touch
a
anything.
graphic on it. No, I didn't bring anything you can't touch.
This?
No, it's going to be square, and it's not my business card. It's white square card. I don't know. Anyway, so I do all kinds of. When you get into like the history of magic, there's like grimoires and shit. You may have heard the term, and that's like what practicing magicians would use as their books, and a lot of it is Hebrew words written in English. And then shit gets like pronounced wrong and spelled wrong, and they copy it by hand and they fuck it up. So a lot of where I've gotten, because I grew up learning to read and write biblical Hebrew, so I started looking at this stuff and I was like, oh, I recognize a lot of this, but that's not right and that's not right. And I started correcting that, and that's something I'm definitely known for doing. So that's kind of like the Kabbalistic work. Root working is working specifically with herbs and plants. A lot of just my general knowledge that I brought with
Using
weed.
the plants?
Yep, using them magically, medicinally, all that shit.
Sort of like a shaman.
Yeah, that kind of what you kind of picture as a bush doctor or something like that. Prophecy, so that goes into that lineage I'm tapped into from South Carolina, where that's a lineage of people who practice prophecy in the biblical tradition that goes back, supposedly back to the time of the Bible. That each prophet kind of anoints prophets. So you got like a whole bull's horn of oil poured over my head and shit. And yeah, it's like an impartation of a gift. And I was talking with you before the show about like, so Ka is my master prophet technically, right? That's my boy. He and I were talking back in March, and we just played the recording in March about like, this was like when COVID was just coming around. And then I went and bought body armor, got a Glock, bought like a tactical helmet. And I was talking to Kaz, and we have this recording that we played of like, yeah, there's going to be riots. There's going to be cyber attacks. There's not going to be many home invasions, but there's going to be looting. There's going to be burning of stores. And
So you guys
And we called
prophesized
it-
or foresaw.
we said it was going to start in May, June, and culminate in August. Like that, this has all been foreseen. And yeah, that kind of shit.
Interesting.
yeah.
Freaky, but interesting.
Well, I mean, part of it, dude, is like the most like misunderstood thing about all this is that it's weird that not everyone does it. It's like anything you do that you just train, right? Like anyone can shoot a jump shot. You're not going to necessarily hit that unless you practice it, train it. Then you're going to nail it, and anyone can, right? Like anyone, more or less, can learn to shoot a basketball. And so it's the same thing. Like it's all faculties that you already use. So just like with that, like you already throw, you already jump, like you use all those faculties. So it's the same thing, just like with the visualization and with anything we're talking about. The way I perceive it is like what we know for fucking sure is that our conscious cognitive experience that we have right now is basically fake, right? Like there are spectrums of light that we can't see. We know that, right?
Well, I would say psychedelics have led to some of that for me, where it's like there's potentially different realms or
So
dimensions.
let me hip you to this. What if that's all this dimension and it's just you're plugging in with different software?
I mean, now you're talking more Matrix to me, where, you know, it's like you plug into the grid or out of the grid or something like that. But I don't know. I have a hard time making that leap. I can kind of see where it's like UFOs or other things can be seen under DMT or psychedelics or other places
Sure.
that are right all around you at all times because they exist in a different dimension plane or something like that. Like I can make that leap, but I have a hard time making a leap where it's all computers, it's all ones and zeros.
I'm using software as a metaphor here.
Okay.
Right, like that, just the software running your brain, the program, whatever the routine your brain does that makes you experience this, right? And just think of it like you're switching all the settings on that. That's what you're doing there. Some things are getting closed, some things are getting opened. And then you're getting a different filter almost on reality, right? Like it's like changing, you know, I used to wear those weird colored glasses. It's like switching those out.
Changing lenses real quick.
Yup. And that's what's, everything you're seeing is there. It's just usually filtered out, you know? So it's like, that means that you're always doing this stuff, whether you can see it or not, right? So when you say something, for example, when you speak something out loud, you hear this all the time. Words have power and things like that. Like the difference between making a plan and then making that plan and writing it down, that's something I've heard you talk about a lot. Like that makes a big difference. You're making it tangible.
Willing it into existence.
And then speaking it is like a whole next level of it, right? So then you get to the point where like you're lighting a candle and speaking it with focusing on the flame and speaking it. Just using that flame as just a point of like meditation, a point of visual focus, right?
Well, I want to interject just real quick because it's like I follow, but at some point I kind of be like, there has to be something profound that has happened that made you be like, this is not complete bullshit.
The thing that turned the corner for me, I will tell you right now. Okay. So I decided like I had done this for me. This is very much what I'd been doing this all along for like Incredible, once or twice for Dark Horse. This is just like how I would give things a little push. My own, and as far as I was concerned, dude, it was like NLP. Like I was just focusing my own mind and I was going through this experience to like embed it in my unconscious mind, you know?
If you don't know what NLP is, you should research it or whatever. Who's that magician that's really good at it?
Darren Brown.
Darren Brown, yeah. Darren Brown's fantastic at it. It's hard to describe what it is, or I'm going to butcher it if I try to describe it right now.
They call it like conversational hypnosis.
Essentially, yeah. It's this conversational hypnosis or leading in a form to get the answer that you want. It's tricky, weird shit, but you should check it out if you're interested in
It's
it.
like hacking people's brains with language, you know? And you can do it to yourself. Like if you get a book on NLP, usually it's about doing it to yourself to overcome your anxieties and fears and things like that.
Yep.
You know, so I thought that's basically what I was doing. And I was like, this is super. In fact, how I really picked up my practice again, like not recently, but in the most recent run of it was I've been going to therapy, as you know, and then I couldn't see my therapist for like 3 weeks in a row. She was on vacation, and I got into a situation. I was like, I need to do something with this. And so I pulled out a candle, you know, and I got to work, and the results were great.
Which is, I suppose, more of an inward focus than an outward focus. But, therapy is outward, explaining.
Either way, it's processing through things.
Sure.
You know? So it's the same thing. It's really like focusing on something and bringing your will to bear and imagining different possibilities.
Sure. But I mean, there's, as I'm sure you're about to tell me or whatever, but there has to be something that was like pretty profound. Maybe that was the moment.
No, that wasn't it.
But
That's when I was like, okay, this shit works for me for sure. Like I'm doing it as an adult now. It's a serious situation. I'm able to resolve it. Yeah. So I was like, okay, whether it's magic, whether it's NLP, I'm going to keep doing this.
Right.
So then I started taking on clients, just trying it. Like, oh, I'll do it for you for free, whatever. And then I started charging a little bit. And that's when it came to like...
Can you disclose? I don't know if that's like bad juju or whatever, but can you disclose what someone would come to you for? Or like what some of your clients were or about?
I would get someone who says like, I have a curse. Okay. And so at this point, like I had studied a lot of this classical texts on this stuff. I had already academically studied a lot of this stuff. I'd been exposed to it personally. And I thought, well, if it's all placebo effect, right? Even if none of this is real, then they're experiencing something that makes them think they have a curse, right? And so I can do something that'll make them think they don't have a curse. So I would do something like that. Right?
Even if it's bullshit. So essentially what you're saying is you're making them feel better. It's still getting the same result, even if it was bullshit.
Even if it was, right? Because I'm doing it with full sincerity and full faith that it is real.
Right.
Okay. So then you get to the next point, where someone hired me to break up a couple.
Oh, that's like diabolical almost in the sense.
So that is kind of more like witchcraft, right? That's when we're talking about witchcraft. Witchcraft is where, and I'll put this aside. Witchcraft is something that I work against. Witchcraft is like It's different than black magic. I'll go through all the technical stuff in a bit. Let me finish this story. So someone hires me to break up a couple. Now, let me say, when I'm removing the curse, right, even if it's all psychosomatic, I'm talking to them, I'm sending them pictures of the work I've done, right? So potentially I'm just NLP influencing their psyche and assuaging whatever was wrong. Right?
In that case, did that person believe that their curse was lifted?
Totally. My I have a very good record. I have a very, very good working record, knock on wood. And I've taken over 100 cases, I think, at this point. Yeah, so it's like I have a really good working record. So then this chick hired me to break up a couple.
Right.
So you think about this situation, it's like he doesn't know what I'm doing. She doesn't know what I'm doing. There is no communication with these people that this is even going on.
Yeah, happening to them.
None at all, right? Right? They know nothing of it. So this should fall apart, right, on the NLP basis.
Right.
Okay. It went exactly. I didn't tell the chick what was planned. I took pictures throughout, the chick that hired me, right? So I took all my pictures. I kept all my, because that's one thing. Like they're not there to see. Sometimes people are there to see it happen. But when I work remotely, I just document it all for the client so they know that it really happened. I'm not a scam artist.
Like
right?
when you're doing the
It's
spell or
all
the
on my
whatever you
Instagram.
need to do,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So I had all that, but she told me exactly what happened. You won't believe what happened. They broke up in such and such a way, this and this. She's leaving town. All this specific shit that was like very specific. The other thing that was super weird with this chick, and at that time, and this is the other thing that turned the corner. It was this case, this client. I have an altar, statues on it, whatever. I could give things to them. So I got this bread, this specific type of bread, Mexican bread, and I put it before my statue that night while I was working on this chick's case. She hits me up in the morning. She's like, dude, the weirdest thing. I had the weirdest dream last night. Okay, one of my ancestors came to me. I was in a grocery store. One of my ancestors came to me, and I couldn't talk. She was the checkout girl, and we were talking, and she was giving me advice. But then someone kept shoving this weird loaf of bread in her face. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I sent her a picture of my thing, and she freaked out and was like, that's exactly the bread from my dream. And when you think about it, right, like this is a client. They have every vested interest in being like, nope, that's not the one, because
sure,
it costs them money.
They want to shoot holes in it right away.
I would think, right?
Or they
especially
want to
this one. I mean,
yeah.
this one happened to be a cop. So
deep. So a cop hired you to break some people up with basic voodoo, and your spell essentially worked.
It worked perfectly, right?
Holy fucking shit! Like that's a pretty profound moment, essentially.
Yeah. So
now, granted, I'm sure there's skeptics out here, but like, what the fuck? Some people broke up, and you're going to take credit for some randomness that occurred in.
So that's where you go to long time track record, right? When people get you to do something improbable. And again, do something improbable. Having a small business that lasts 3 years is improbable.
Yeah.
You have to pull some strokes of luck to make that happen, right? And every single fucking time you figure out a way to do that with your mind.
Yeah, and
things just work out.
Yeah,
Things
most
just work
businesses
out.
are gone within 2 years. Absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying? So like these basic concepts you use in your life, and it's just fine tuning them, refining them, adding what I call it as handles. Every one of these is just another handle on a part of my mind, so I can manipulate it at a slightly different angle, and a slightly different trajectory to get it to exactly where I want.
Like a focus tool.
Exactly.
Okay, I follow that.
So then you get into spiritualism, which is actually like that's the faith that I
You're talking
practice.
Ghosts and exorcisms and stuff like that now?
So exorcisms is a broad term, and I've gotten into so exorcisms in the tradition, this South Carolina lineage that I've been introduced to, is a very specific thing called deliverance, where they cast out devils. That's what you think of black preacher casting out devils, people, all that, right?
Well, yes, and I'm also thinking of like levitation on a bed or whatever.
Okay,
I think we've
so
talked
I'll
about
tell
this
you about the
briefly,
weirdest exorcism that I've had.
and that's what I was going to say is up until you've been telling me all about this stuff for years essentially, and I was kind of like, okay, Mitch is into some weird spell voodoo shit or whatever, but it's not a huge deal for me or whatever. But then you told me you were going to do an exorcism one weekend, and I was like, you're going where? You're going to do a fucking exorcism? I was like, okay. So I was slightly concerned and worried, but then when you came back, it went better than expected or whatever. But I remember asking you, not about this particular one at some point, but I was like, have you ever seen anyone like levitate out of a bed or any some crazy fucked up weird shit on exorcism? And I don't want. I believe you said yes, but you're about to tell me or whatever. But that to me is like one of the more profound fucking moments. If you're in a room and someone actually levitated out of a bed during an exorcism or saw some weird shit float or fly or whatever the fuck, like that, it all of a sudden is like, all right, what the fuck? Like let's sit down and talk about it. It's like now you have my attention all of a sudden.
So I've never seen full on like someone levitate off the ground. Okay. I'll say that right off the bat. I have seen. I'll tell you some shit. The weirdest shit the shit that surprised me, and this was like 6 months ago. Like I've seen some, relatively improbable shit.
So before we even go, how do you even get like called to do an exorcism? Is that just a service that you provide, and someone hits you up through word of mouth?
It was a referral.
A referral?
It was a referral. Someone went to like an occult shop or whatever and said, I have this issue. So, and I want to say like, there's different, you can exorcise different things. Exorcise just means to take out, right? So you can take out different stuff. So this was a situation where this woman's husband had an ex, and the ex had hired someone to do, black magic on him. And in particular, Palo Mayombe is a particular like Afro-Cuban method where they send the spirit of a dead person to plague a person. Okay.
This is like a ghost, or just
bad
shit happens to them, or are they they're seeing this entity or spirit and
it's
fucking with them?
They feel super drained. They have really bad luck. They can't get employment. There's just like a funk about them, a cloud of funk, right?
Okay.
So I called a colleague who's more familiar with Paulo than me to kind of bring in someone more afield. I did my thing. He did his thing. The situation at hand, and this was another one that crossed the line for me, because that guy who I was doing it for, he didn't believe in any of this shit. He was willing to go along with it, but he didn't believe that this is what was going on with him. So, and again, he had every fuck invested, because then next thing you know, two guys roll up in his house, me and my partner, fucking smoking cigars in his living room, because we got to smoke a lot of cigars, telling his family what's what, calling him out on shit. He had every vested interest to be like, fuck you guys.
Right.
Instead, when we would go to do the checkup, like 2 days after we do the work, he goes, y'all did something here. He goes, I was open-minded, but I didn't really believe this shit was real. But this shit is real.
Huh. So talk to me about, again, the strangest thing you've ever seen.
Okay, so the strangest thing I ever seen was this is a job gone wrong. Okay, to me, this is like, in Pulp Fiction when they go to do the job and then like it's a standard job. It should just go easy peasy, but then like something goes slightly wrong and then like it's really wrong really quick.
Everything goes bad.
Yeah. It was one of those. Okay. So, because usually we try to keep things controlled so crazy shit doesn't happen. Okay. The thing is, it was the first time I was working with my teacher on a job. And as I said, there's different methods of doing this stuff. His method involves a lot of New Testament stuff, working with the Spirit of Jesus, cleansing people, calling out the demons that reside in them. What I do is I break witchcraft and I remove those types of spirits that are plaguing people. We didn't, for a variety of reasons, we weren't able to communicate thoroughly regarding the expectations. So I work a lot with veterans who've been overseas, especially in Mexico or in Afghanistan and shit, have a lot of witchcraft on them. They have a lot of...
Is it why they practice over in like Iraq or wherever, Middle East?
Well, that's just part of the life out there. You know what I mean? So the doors are protected with shit. The ground is protected with shit. You walk over it or walk through it and you got something on you, Then you go fucking blow up a mosque and better believe you got some... That mosque was built there to hold a jinn in the ground or whatever. And now that thing's fucking, So like a lot of these guys have a lot of shit. Then you talk about spirits of the dead, like they have the guys people they killed sometimes will be following them, exacting revenge. People, then they'll have like I was telling you before, like spirits sent to plague them. Like the local populations will spill some water on you, and that water's been made to mark you for a spirit or some shit like that, like that kind of shit. And then they have the guys they were leading in combat who died while they were following them, and those spirits follow them. And that's why so many of these guys can't sleep. They can't, a lot of the PTSD symptoms. So I work with them, we do jobs where it's 4-6 hours and then they sleep again, after they haven't slept for years.
But back to this step-by-step of this.
So this is one of these guys, right? This is one of these guys, right? And he's still an operator. He still has to go places and kill people. So that didn't get communicated. So I know when I'm working on these guys, you don't want these guys to be totally clean and godly because they can't go places and kill people. My teacher necessarily, again, we didn't have that discussion. And of course, he wants to do things the right way, the complete way. That's why he's my teacher. But of course, I'm doing things my way, where I'm like, as long as we get it good enough, that's what we need, man. You know, hit that 80%, and collect the dough, do the thing. And so this guy was not. Now, if you want to, and I have done these like more heavenly type works, you know,
like Catholic churchy type things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that, the person has to know, they have to be informed. There's a process, right?
Yeah, they're on board with you.
Yeah. They have to be open and receptive. That's not what happened here. So we saw what happened when, also this guy had been initiated by a brujo, by a Mexican like male witch, who had initiated him into a Mexican system of witchcraft.
And if he wasn't willing, how did you know all this about him? Did he tell?
Okay.
Did he give this
He was
information?
willing to have my work done, but he wasn't looking. It's like, you know, sometimes you need the oil change. Sometimes you want the engine rebuilt.
Or he got real serious real fast, and he was like, I don't know that I want to go there.
So the difference was, I'm used to working with veterans, and I'm used to those kind of guys getting that kind of intense.
Okay.
You know,
But how does, if you don't mind me asking,
Yeah.
how do you do it? You walk into a room, you sit him down, and you say, okay, we're about to read some text, or we're about to.
Yeah, so we start. So we'll go in. First, we'll kind of set the mood. We'll set up the altar for the ancestors, right? And this is like any type of thing. So I break addictions too, right? Like I've done alcoholism, I've done heroin addictions, right? So I'll go in. First, we set up the room we have a little conversation first. Set up the room for the ancestors. Light candles, put up the pictures of their ancestors, say prayers to call in their ancestors. Generally, during this period, we're preparing a bath or a head wash or something to cleanse them with. And then I'll have some kind of powders or something that when we get to it, we'll blow on them, things like that. In this case, by the way, we didn't set up the ancestor altar. So that's where we started botching this, because we were rushing. It was a hotel room. Everything was wrong. We should have not done the job and rescheduled is what should have happened. That was the biggest lesson learned in any case. So we'd set up the ancestor altars, call on the ancestors. Before we did that, we would cleanse the space, you know, burning camphor, things like that, going around, shaking rattles as needed to just change the vibe, right? You know, when you walk in a room, you can feel the vibe in a room,
Yeah,
right? And you know that if certain people enter the room, that vibe changes,
totally.
right? And you know that the smell can change the vibe in a room. You know that really fucking well, right?
Sure.
You know that the light can change the vibe in a room. Setting a mood, we call it, right? What is that? That's spirit. That's exactly what we're fucking talking about, right? You're tuning your experience of reality to different filters. Like we
Okay.
said, boom, filters.
Changing your lens again.
Changing your lens. And with a lens, so you think of a lens, you can use a lens to like see something, or you can use a lens to focus a ray of light into a beam that can burn an ant or something like that. Right? So that's perfect metaphor we're
analogy,
working with.
yeah.
Yeah, perfect metaphor. So in any case, in a proper job, we would set up the ancestor altar, call on the ancestors. Then we would perform, before we did the head washing, we would do a renunciation where we'd kind of like call out the specific things that we wanted out. Then we would do prayers. It would be a lot of prayers. Prayers basically set the mood throughout. You'd say like the Lord's Prayer over and over and over and over to set the mood, you know. And then I'll do the prayer to St. Michael. I'll do the prayers to my saints and things like that, just to call, again, whether we're talking about calling in some entity or whether talking about accessing some part of myself that I can tap in. You know, when you're really on point, when you're at a trade show and you're really on point, you can just fall into that flow state, right?
Sure. It's like being on fire, shooting basketball
Yep.
or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And then you can talk about how there are different types of them, right? They're not all the same. There's the work one, there's the sports one, there's just something comes over you, right? We call it in English inspiration, right? You become inspired. That word comes from taking in a spirit. You're taking in a spirit, inspiration, right? So that's what we're talking about here. I'm not talking about Casper the Friendly Ghost showing up, right? And poof, magic weird shit. I've heard stories about that shit. Again, I'll tell you the weirdest thing I've ever seen was, again, this was maybe 9 months ago. I was working on something with a finger bone, and that fucking shit moved when I finished the words. it fucking moved. It twirled up the shredded money, and I was spooked.
Moved it within like inches
went
of the table, or
it twirled.
Oh, it
twirled.
rotated.
It twirled. Yeah, it twirled up some shredded money around it. It was sitting here. The shredded money was here. See, shredded money like in this jar, and it went boop, boop, boop. And I was like, what the fuck? And it was in an aluminum pan, totally like that. That aluminum could adjust at that moment, adjusted from because there was a candle involved. There was heat. Heat makes the metal bend, and then it cools. But that's what it all is, man.
Right.
That's exactly it. It's like you're creating improbability, right? It was improbable that it would happen at that exact fucking moment. So many times I'll be outside. I'll say a prayer for the rain to not come until the work is done. And like the second the work is done, the rain comes. Or we're working outside and say the last word of the prayer and the wind blows and takes out all the candles and shit. You know, that's good work. You know, that's what we're shooting for.
Crazy. But yeah, continue with the bad experience
yes,
with the guy.
I like going back and forth, like Tarantino, very Tarantino talk today.
We'll keep you on there, on the right track.
So I do my thing, and I didn't get to.
Kind of what is your thing though? So
Okay,
you say
so-
you've read the prayers.
We've read the prayers.
Many
He's sitting in the chair, right? We've gone around him with smoke, with a cigar. We cleanse him with an egg, so we'll like rub the egg on him to take off the bad juju. All this stuff. We can go into the theory of all this too. And he's sitting in the chair, and then I go to proceed with the exorcism of Saint Cyprian. This is Cyprian's a really interesting saint. He's a Catholic saint, but throughout Latin America, throughout large parts of Europe, he's known as the sorcerer saint. Okay, so he was a sorcerer, he was a necromancer, he did all this stuff, and then he became a Catholic saint after.
Okay.
So he like found Jesus because he did a spell, and then this woman of faith overpowered his spell with her faith in Jesus, and he was like, whoa.
Stronger magic,
right? But he's still known as the sorcerer saint, you know. So a lot of exorcism tradition comes through him because he knows about that shit, right? So I'm doing the exorcism of Cyprian, and we break witchcraft with this stuff, remove curses, spells, hexes, jinxes. These are all just kind of like different types of bad shit that could happen to you, okay? We send off bad spirits, you know. It's one of my standard ones, a very thorough spell breaking, and I am pretty adept at customizing it to different situations. So I did that. And that was working well. And then we started doing it. My teacher started kind of like showing me new stuff, which was a little, maybe not the best time to do it. And he started really pushing that Christ power. Okay, so let me tell you a bit about the man in the chair. He was about 300 pounds, a little shorter than me, maybe an inch or two shorter than me. Mercenary. That's what he does for a living. Kills people for a living all the time.
And this guy's name is the man in the chair?
I'm going to talk. No, that's not my teacher. That's the guy we're working on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the man. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Yeah, the man in the chair, right? So you can see it overtaking him. Okay, his eyes roll up in his head. He has this look on his face that, like, I've never seen. And he's angry. He's just breathing like an animal, dude. And Doc, my teacher's there calling out, you know, in the name of Jesus Christ, come out. Opening this gate, opening that gate. You know, I'm not going to get into the whole thing now. And he's just fucking, it's called manifesting. It's coming to the surface. You know, it's like drawing out an infection.
Okay.
And he starts, and a lot of these spirits are popping off, you know. Spirit of shame, I call you out. You spirit of fear, I call you out. You spirit of, you know. Then he starts calling out the spirits of death and destruction, which are the spirits this guy really fucking needs to do his job.
Right.
And those are very deep in this man because it's, you know, early life experiences, all this shit, right? He took on that inspiration very early, you might say, right? So they didn't want to come out, and he didn't want to let go of them. That's the big point, because if they don't want to come out, we can pull them out, but not. Think of it like evicting someone from a property, right? You got a vagrant on your property, the cops can come kick him out. But if you say no, he's my guest, cops can't do shit even if they want to kick him out.
Right.
So that's how it goes. So we got into that situation. Okay. It was super intense. I de-escalated it, pulled some coyote shit. We made it out of there alive. But only after the dude said, you guys need to leave here because I'm going to kill you. With full seriousness. And that's when I was like, nope, we got to finish what we're doing here, you know. Afterwards, the next day, he texted me. And this because he was crazy. You know, the state you go into is really quite a state on both sides of it.
Right.
The next day, about 12 hours later, he texts me. Pictures of his hands. He's got 4 circular bruises from his fingers squeezing into his hands. His molars are all cracked from going like this. This is from the point in the night where he's in the chair, Doc's over him, doing the exorcism, and he's trying to get up. And Doc walks over, and I'm talking Doc, my teacher, he's actually younger than me. Man, he probably weighs like 140, 150 pounds. Little black dude. He just came over and said, put his hand on him just like this, so gently. And I don't even remember what he said, but like, in the name of Jesus, I restrain you, something like that. And dude sat the fuck back down in the chair, could not stand up. That's when he started squeezing, like he was trying to get up and could not.
So he's pinned in the chair.
Pinned in the chair. Pinned in the, like, and he told me the next day, dude, I don't know what happened. I was trying to get up and kill you guys, and I could not.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking heavy. Definitely pretty heavy. And you consider that obviously a failed because...
So, actually, the work I did worked. It's like a surgery where they fucking cut you and you're bleeding too much. It's kind of like that. It's not a failed surgery. The operation wasn't a success.
Messy.
It was messy. It was messy. That's a messy job.
I got you.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Yeah, that one's pretty intense. So
that's the most. That's by far the most intense I've got. Other shit you'll see. Again, the stuff that makes you really 100% believe it is when the moment you say something that you know is supposed to do something and they have no idea what you're doing, right? They say out loud, "Oh my God, I feel so cold," or whatever like that, and you're like,
yeah, that. I mean, I can't really. It's hard to relate because it's hard to understand like what your emotional state would be, whether it be fear or excitement because you're using your practices, or you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. I would be incredibly fearful the entire time.
So that's the difference between a pro and an amateur. That's what it is. It's like what I get. Why I get paid fucking a lot of money, man.
Why? Yeah, I guess that is. You're coming in to do a job, so you're serious. You're a man on a mission, as opposed to like a bystander who's freaked the fuck out.
Beyond that, dude, it's like whatever spirit I'm dealing with. My job is to fucking tell that thing. I'm a cop making an eviction, right? Like if a cop's going in, there's the psych up,
I got you. So yeah, I'm looking at, I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I'm looking at all kinds of shit on this table.
I'm just going to start warming shit up. Oh yeah, spirits moving in the room. See the bubbles in the glass?
There's bubbles in the glass.
Yeah, so we take that as an indication. Now, naturally, again, I have a reputation from the Dun Show and shit for being scientific about shit. Right? I'm not scientific now because naturally there's chlorine in the tap water, but you didn't give me tap water. What'd you give me?
That came out of the Brita filter out of the fridge.
Okay, so there's probably still chlorine in the Brita.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how long it's been in there or whatever, but it was one of those little.
Well, then it would have evaporated. In any case, there's some gases in there that are going to change and make bubbles. But if you Google why are there bubbles in a glass of water, like if you try to research this, you'll find that there's like kind of an explanation for a phenomenon, but not really a good explanation as to why there are more or less at any given time or anything like that, right? So it has something to do with energy exchange of some sort, right? Heat or whatever. I can tell you that when you do it in a spiritual situation, you get more fucking bubbles. I don't know what it is.
Interesting.
Weird shit happens with candle flames. That's for damn sure. Weird shit happens with flames in general. Just the improbable happens. The improbable happens. So what I got here.
To say, what are you setting up? You're freaking me out. You got a candle lit up.
We're warming this up. What
are we warming up? Because if you got to explain what the hell's on the table.
Put the camera on it.
Okay, we go over to closer. Oops, this one here.
There we go.
So
so we got a candle cooking here. So this jar is dirt from Google, IBM, and Level 3 Communications, which is like the hub of the internet.
What do you mean dirt from? Just like the properties that contain the main headquarters or whatever?
Well, definitely not the main headquarters because I got like the Google and the IBM in Boulder. Right?
Okay.
So, but you go there.
You went to their properties to collect
go to the
this
property.
Dirt.
First, you propitiate the spirits of the land, the native spirits, and then the spirits of the place itself. And then you buy the dirt from the place, right? This is conjuring. Conjuring is making deals. So I've always been a conjurer, right? I conjured on behalf of Dark Horse for the longest time.
So what kind of deal are we about to make here?
So I made a deal with the spirits of this place that in exchange for what I paid them, they would impart the gift, skills, and blessings that they've gotten access to from those places, from being associated with those places. So this is like a better business jar we're going to make you. So we got some shredded money in there.
Better Business jar.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
We're going to
there's
make us a better business. I'm down with this voodoo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so we got some shredded money in here.
Shredded
for money.
Money into the jar?
It's already in there in the jar, right?
With the dirt?
With the dirt, yes,
Okay.
sir. There's some herbs in there. I brought some more herbs. We're going to put those in there. This is, so Hoyt's cologne is a cologne. We use colognes because they have strong smells, right? And smells move spirits, we say all the time. If you think about people with Alzheimer's, okay, the things that can bring them back to alertness, bring them like all of a sudden they're lucid, is music from that they're familiar with, like music from their childhood, and then smells that they're familiar with. You think about how strong like a smell
Sure.
you know from weed. Like smell is just the most compelling.
Nostalgic smells, everything else.
So that, and it can move your feelings. It can move your whole psyche, right? You put on the right cologne and it gets you in the zone. And that's what we're talking about. It's waking up your spirits and shit like that. So we use Hoyt's to wake up the spirits of luck. And in this Hoyt's cologne, there's a little mix of, this is sort of my special type shit. So I made a amulet on parchment, and that's been burnt to ash and mixed into the cologne to imbue those virtues. Now this,
Hold that cologne up real quick again.
Yeah.
So these guys can see it on your camera. Yeah. There you go.
Now this, I'm excited to shake on camera. This is an oil I've made. It's got the prayers over it for the wealth of King Solomon. Okay, so it's got shredded money in it, all kinds of different herbs and shit. Some of the more exciting shit in here is that I ground up pyrite, ground up, I think there's actually silver in here, ground up all kinds of metals. There's an emerald in here. And then it's also got this like gold powder stuff. So when I shake it up,
Becomes activated.
yeah, and it's, gold now. So we're going to use some of that. I like the sound of that. Yeah.
Shoot.
So normally if I was doing this job like for a client, this is like we're going to do a very abbreviated version, right? Because there's a lot of prayers and there's a lot of this and that. But we only got, an hour left? Less than an hour?
I would say there's 7 minutes till I'm going to cut it for part 2.
Okay, cool. So
Today's
we'll tease
going
it
to be
out
a
now.
part 2 or whatever, but you have 7 minutes left to set up your ritual here, whatever you're setting
Okay,
up.
so we're going to need a cigar. I'm going to need some of this cologne, Florida water. I'm going to need some incense charcoals. And then I got a bag of incense here. Give me one sec. There we go. Now, and I got some other herbs and some dimes. There it is. So yeah, I'll talk about this stuff. So this is the kind of shit that I still sell bags of herbs, bags of powders. So this is a formula, a little cheesy label there. So much like the seed game, it's crazy, man. So
you sell this formula.
So yeah, this powder is about $100 a bag. $100 for 5 grams.
Okay.
And this has, this particular bag's got crazy shit in it. It's got all kinds of herbs that I got with me that we're going to use, but it's also got like, it's got a pit bull bone, a bone of a pit bull that was hit by a train. It's got antler. It's got a finger bone. It's got.
Wait, a human finger bone?
Yeah, you could get them.
You got human bone?
Yeah, people donate their bodies to science, and then the extra parts end up getting sold.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
So that powder that I had in Vegas,
you kind of we got human bone hanging out up here with us right now.
It's powdered though.
Powdered. Okay.
The powder I had in Vegas. So this is like I call this like spiritual barbed wire.
Okay.
Right, like it's not just protection; it's protection that makes it gets them back, and it works really well. So the powder I had in Vegas was the scorpion powder. That had finger bone in it too. It had 2 live scorpions. They weren't alive after I ground them up. Finger bone, coyote penis bone. Swarming ants. I caught the swarming ants. That's what inspired the whole mix.
We just glazed right over the coyote penis bone though. Why we got coyote dick?
You're trying to get the dick in on the sly. That's the coyote penis bone, man.
Okay.
It all, and then you're like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense, right? You can kind of think of every animal has their traits, and then every part of their body has its traits. Right? So the coyote's always about, the coyote's like the trickster. I very much embody the whole coyote situation, right? So, clever, quick-witted trickster often blows up in his face. Just Wile E. Coyote, you know the coyote archetype, right? So you kind of hope it goes better than it did for old Wiley. You kind of that's where the cigars and the.
It's just interesting
hooking 'em
that
up
your
comes in.
recipe calls for coyote dick bone.
Yeah, well, that's because that's an aphrodisiac recipe.
Okay.
That's what makes it interesting. It's aphrodisiac with scorpions in it. Ooh.
Interesting.
And the venom is like nice.
There's no human ingesting of these.
Oh yeah, no, that one you ingest.
What the fuck?
That's the only one I make really to like either put it in wine or then you can smoke it too, which is.
I don't really care how unhorny I am. I'm not gonna eat.
It's not for you.
Oh, okay.
It's for her.
Wow.
Chicks, let me tell you, buddy.
Let me tell you. Let me tell
You'll
you.
be surprised how many chicks would be interested in trying this if you described it to them. And I'll also tell you, are you into astrology at all, or is that weird to you? Because that's another
I wouldn't
thing.
say it's weird, but
Astrology is one of those things, and I'm not talking about your horoscope, but like when you get your chart done, that's one of the things where you're like, what the fuck? This is spot on.
that's like the Farmer's Almanac, which I am into.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Same
It's
thing. That's astrology
remarkably
also.
accurate.
You're like, what the how?
Yeah.
How? Right? And no one can explain it, right? And so it's all based on all that shit, right? So that if you know a chick who's a Scorpio, I promise you she'll want the scorpion powder. That's 'cause it was made while Venus was in Scorpio. That's the whole.
Interesting.
So
All right, well, I think I'm going to stop you right there, and
Do
we're
it.
going to pause
Let's do it.
for a moment. We are going to give away more seeds, but tonight's going to be a two-parter because I'm just getting into this.
So you're gonna give away
weird
seeds
shit.
now, and then you're gonna give away more seeds, and then more seeds, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
So tonight we're just going to do a back-to-back on the Soulstone because it's getting really fucking interesting tonight. So Soulstone, fifth person on the screen. The email will be free sheet email on the screen. darkhorsegeneticslive@gmail.com. Fifth person to write Coyote Dick.
Okay, before we finish this, can I hype my shit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
before
then
we
on
wrap this
top
one.
of the screen, right above Mitch, there is what do you got there?
Right, so we're doing a Kickstarter for the temple. Like I bought this, and those are the dude who's texting me before the show. I got this yurt. It's like a 12-foot yurt, like a mobile tent. And that's for me to do a lot of this work in, like the work with veterans, the work with addicts, things like that. And, you know, blessings and all kinds of shit. I do marriages, whatever. And so the idea is to kind of get a bunch of these and make them mobile because since COVID, you can't, like, you can go to a church, but it's a really bad idea. You know what I mean? Like you can go to a wedding venue, it's a really bad idea. So these are small. It's a 12-foot diameter yurt. It can fit about 8 to 12 people, which is what's allowed. It can, it's 112 square feet, so you can set it up without a permit, basically anywhere.
Cool. So
So-
yeah, you're trying to get a yurt to.
We're trying to sponsor that, hook it up, bring it around to people, and that's just the beginning of like what we have planned. This is just going to be the start, and you can go on there and get, you know, when you donate to the campaign, you will get juju. That's what you get for this, you know.
Gotcha.
And I don't mean I'm gonna like put your name on a piece of paper and pray over it. I mean I'm gonna send you something cool, but more than that, right
Protection Coyote Tooth.
now you
or
get to
something.
pick. Yeah, you
Right.
get to pick.
Totally.
But right now you can't even do any of that. Right now it's in the pre-launch. So I got a homegirl who works at Kickstarter, and she said if I get over 700 people signed up for the pre-launch, it like bumps me up to get displayed in the algorithm. It tweaks it.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get as many people as possible. Just go click up to here. Can you click the link on screen here
Yeah, I only have 10 seconds till they kick us off. So we'll catch us back.
on the other flip,
On
or
the
just
other
check it
flip.
out yourself. Click it, follow me on there.
We'll be
get
right back.
notified, and we'll be right back.
5 minutes.